So firstly, a little bit of a glimpse into G+D, what we do. Then about the Atlassian products that we do. This is going to be co-hosted with Isabel and myself. Then about the ELA that we've signed, Sam will take care. And then there's time for Q&A for you guys to ask questions. And Isabel will guide us through the Q&A session. So what do we do at G+D? You already saw some of our products. But basically, I've been asked the last days very often, oh, I can't read that name of the company you work for. So what do you do? And basically, my first answer is, we print money. And yes, someone has to do this. Typically, printing money is something, it's a federal activity. But in some states, they don't have the expertise, they don't have the skill, they don't have the know-how. That's why they bring this activity to the private market. Not only small countries, we also print the majority of the part of the euro for Germany, for example. But we do more. You see payment, like cash, is one of our activities. We also build big cash machines that actually support the cash cycle in sorting, shredding. But we also do digital stuff. We are a highly innovative company. We do something like the eSIM. We do border control systems. We do cryptography for networks. And this translates into 4 playing fields on our strategic level. These 4 playing fields are payment, with our clear home turf over the last years with the substrate for banknotes, with printing of money, but also cash cycling machines, but also paying with your credit cards. So we also print credit cards, which is actually a high-end thing to do, because we also develop the software on the chip. What we do in the area of connectivity, we talked already about the eSIM. We are working in the area of IoT devices, and we also will start track and trace soon. One thing which is not so much known is identities. So we do print passports, we do issue border control systems, and we can deliver this all out of one hand. And you always need to keep in mind that for us in this room, an identity is a given. We all have one. We don't think about this. I can tell you, in a lot of the countries out there in the world, people don't have a real identity. They don't have a passport. They don't have access to a bank account. They cannot vote. And this is something where we help countries, smaller countries, to actually bring this to their population. Digital infrastructure, we build high secure network infrastructure in which you are actually allowed to host NATO classified data. So highly innovative, highly technical, but 170 years of history in a family-owned business. Our motto actually is, we shape trust in the digital world. Our marketing motto, which I didn't want to put on the slides, actually is that we make the life of millions of billions of people more secure. Coming from the overall strategy down to our IT trend galaxy. And you see on our trend galaxy something that is touching us here in this area. You see this on the bottom left. The tool integration. This is something that is for us super important in the area of tooling. How can we integrate between tools? And this is an area where Jira is actually helping us to get more feet on the ground. Also, data analytics that you saw is something that is in our core and will define our strategy for the next 3 years in data management, in data governance, and in support processes on data. One thing you see in the middle is cloud, which is actually something we would like to deep dive a bit. In the area of cloud, we do run a hybrid cloud strategy. As you can see from the core of our products, we cannot just give everything to the cloud. That would be too easy. Basically, our motivation, and you saw this in the last days here very, very clearly, is that a lot of innovation is only happening in the cloud. A lot of functions like the whiteboard for Jira is only happening in the cloud and not for the on-premise services. So this is why we want to go to the cloud. But we also have constraints. Constraints are on the one hand on the regulatory side, and on the other side is a security topic. Overall, cost is also something that we have to balance very high. Interesting enough, when you sit in the discussions here, cost and security is something that drives Atlassian to the cloud. For us, cost and security is something where we're skeptical. Perhaps something, Sam and Isabel, where we have to work on how to make better transparent that cost is not really an issue. Security is a different topic, but cost is something we can definitely work on. And you see cloud preferred means we give to the cloud whatever we can. And you see, we do have some preferred cloud partners. And the smart guys of you that have seen this, Atlassian is not on the list. And it's not on the list yet. This is the status quo and not the status in 2 years. In 2 years, you will not only also see the Microsoft, SAP, Salesforce, ServiceNow, and Atlassian. But we will come to this later. In terms of data center, we are driving a threefold strategy. So we have a big commercial data center that we recently outsourced to a small German company. We are very happy that we have a climate-neutral data center there. And in the data center, we actually host a cage, so we still operate everything in there, but it's no longer on-premise. That was a big step for us, a real big step also for our customers to accept that we do this. In the cloud, we have a strategic partnership with Microsoft, and we do use the Azure data centers in Europe, APAC, and Americas. Lastly, our smallest data center, but somehow the most important one, is where we keep our crown jewels. And our crown jewels are kept on-premise in the cellar, in our data center, and this is in our headquarters. When we look at the architecture on how we design the usage of the Atlassian products, you need to understand that we have a highly fragmented network infrastructure with multiple high secure networks. And you see on the on-prem stuff that you have there, you see the left building block, G+D. This is where we keep most of our systems. This is our commercial net, very open from our perspective. We have the high security areas where Secunet, the guys that build the cryptography for network infrastructures, and our R&D departments are in, is stuff that is currently on-premise and where we will have a huge discussion bringing them in the cloud. But this is something that we have to drive for. And things are changing also in our environment. And with that, we come to the point to talk a bit about the products that we use at G+D from Atlassian. So we are a very, very long-lasting Atlassian customer since more than 10 years. And we started Atlassian products in 2012 already with a big user community of 200. And we're now significantly increasing. And we're now at 6,000, it says here, but in reality, it's already 6,500. And we see every day that we get new features coming in. Just learned this week that service management is getting more and more popular, and we bought another package of licenses to get this running. But you see here, we started very traditionally with Jira, with Confluence, with Bitbucket, and so on. And you see in the end, you see the first cloud symbol. This is Netcetera. This is an acquisition in Switzerland that is doing cash cycle, that is doing digital payments and supporting this. The clear advantage that we have or that we see why we use the Atlassian toolset is obvious. It's integration. The tools are seamless integrated. This is a huge advantage for us, and this really helps us to support our R&D departments. Of course, also documentation and flexibility there is really, really important for us. The strengths that we see when we talk about the use cases that we have is we have the main usage of the Atlassian tools is now our R&D departments. This is the core of what we do with Atlassian. But we also see that Atlassian takes, from an integrated perspective, something out of other tools. I was hard to convince on that one. I'm an SAP guy. So we now carved out the SAP quality management out of SAP and put it into Jira. And we built some interfaces to integrate this. And I see some people that were fourth row there. Why are you doing that? Pretty simple. We have a big SAP footprint, but we don't have SAP rolled out to all small companies yet. But using Jira, it is far easier to scale on a global level and to actually make the tool available for everyone. And to get quality management in SAP available for every country, we need to roll out SAP. And that's a very long-lasting thing, very costly and efficient. Furthermore, we use it, of course, for project management, the Agile suite. And interesting enough, we use it in our printing facilities for the pre-production process, so for prototyping. And this is something that we also support with Jira to be fast-moving there. In terms of architecture, we already saw this. In the end, if you remember the middle block, we have 11 instances on our on-premise services, plus all the cloud instances. And the cloud instances typically happen with the areas where we have M&A activities or where we have small spin-offs. We try to make spin-offs to have some fast tracks and some speedboats in the sea, to not only have the big ship that it's hard to navigate. Having said that, the high number of installations that we have is actually very difficult for us in maintenance and also in terms of licenses. Strategy, I already touched this point a little bit. We last year, Sam will come to this, we signed the hybrid ELA, and this hybrid ELA allows us to now change from the server to the data center license. We plan this year and until middle of next year. Once we finish this, we will move to the cloud, whatever we can move to the cloud. We hope that we can, while doing this, every new instance that we will build up, we will again take the balance. Can we bring it to the cloud? Can we not bring it to the cloud? But seeing all the innovations that are happening in the cloud, it's really important that we bring stuff to the cloud. And with that, actually, I would like to hand over to Isabel to talk a bit more about what we do at G+D.
Yeah, thank you, Henrik. And I remember when we first met, you told me that you had a couple of challenges with the Atlassian environment that you sat in. So I want to highlight 6 of these challenges to you with you today. And like we just heard, cloud is preferred, but not always possible due to the regulations. We have in the company, in the group, but also in the industry. And that is also the reason why you needed to have multiple instances to keep your data secured and strictly separated. And these multiple instances also require G+D to have licenses for each user that had to access each instance. So it was simply just a big overhead. On top of that, I'm sure you all know, Atlassian has put its server deployment end of life in February 2024, and most of the stack actually sat on server, as you just said. So yeah, I think, and I have to say, you were really open, and I'm glad we took that path to take it as a chance and reevaluate the stack and the Atlassian setup and the Atlassian environment. And we took that path not only for the G+D entity, but also your independent entities like secunet and etc., as we just heard. And yeah, I have to say that when we took that path, we did that under 2 conditions, because we needed to ensure to stay compliant with the regulations you have at all times, but we also needed to come up with a sustainable business model and basically for all parties at the table. And there was G+D, secunet, etc., venITure as part of the Adaptivist Group as the Atlassian Platinum Solution Partner, and then lastly also Atlassian, of course. And we came up, it took a little while, and we came up with an enterprise license agreement at the end. And you might ask yourself, what is an enterprise license agreement? We briefly call it ELA. I personally like to call it the all-you-can-eat buffet from Atlassian. And I will let Sam tell a little bit more about it.
Thank you, Isabel. Hello. Yeah, works. Yeah, I'll give you more of an insight of what how the ELA is used to accelerate value streams. In specific, what's in it for G+D, right? Now, as Isabel had just mentioned, the end of server 2024 is not far away. And we've seen it in Scott's keynote. It's another 10 months to go. We know that the end of server is coming, and there needs to be some action taken, especially for customers like G+D that have server deployments that needed to be dealt with in a way that is efficient. Now, with the strong growth and the increase in revenue and in headcounts at G+D, there are challenges to optimize and your license model. Now, in the background, G+D had a lot of instances. G+D has a lot of entities all over the world, and when we scraped all that data together, we realized, there's actually a lot of potential from a licensing model that could work towards an ELA. I mean, when we started our conversation, we didn't know from the beginning it's going to be an ELA. It's a process, and it took us how long? Well over 12 months, right? So it's not a sales cycle that we're used to, where we're saying, okay, this is a 3-month sales cycle, and we're gonna do this in 3 months and just sell it some licenses. But there's a lot of consultancy that goes with it and assistance. Now, the G+D IT as a global service provider within the holding has to respond to a request from various companies and entities across the holding, right? And the instances and the requests that they get have been increasing accordingly. Just like Henrik just said, he very recently found out, okay, the Jira service management demand is rising, right? Now, what else is in it? Henrik touched a very good point, and they said G+D is a cloud-first company, and this actually supports the cloud strategy, right? We have a flexible option between on-prem and cloud with the ELA. And this supports the future conversions of on-premise instances into the cloud. Now, it is also fit in addition for mergers and acquisitions. I mean, you saw in the history of G+D, they've been acquiring companies like Secunet in the past, and you need to integrate those, and you need to facilitate it into a licensing model that is feasible for the group overall. And now that brings us exactly to that point. It supports this holding structure of a group that is needed. It covers G+D's holding structure, where although the IT environment is separate for each of those entities, it is suitable for future M&A activities, right? When we think of it, there's 3 finance departments, there's 3 legal departments, there's 3 procurement departments that usually go through the licensing process, right? Now, with the ELA, that is different. When we also look at it from a unique user perspective, currently a lot of you might be have single user instances, or with customers throughout Germany that are also sitting here in the audience. They have multiple instances. If person A is on instance B, C, and D, then they need 3 licenses for it. In the framework of the ELA, we talk about unique licenses, unique users in a license. So if person A is licensed, they can be a user across N amount of instances without having to pay for them multiple times. So you pay for a user once and not multiple times. And for an organization like G+D, you can see it's a global organization. There are users across multiple instances, and this actually helps optimize costs for the group overall. And that actually pays into the point of cost efficiency and scale up as to other comparing license models like enterprise cloud or data center, where we would have to, in the enterprise cloud, we have a similar one, but on data center, however, we would have that challenge too. Now, us as a consulting partner, like I said before, coming to that decision of an ELA is not just, okay, there are 10 instances, this is good for us, let's do this. But there are a lot of other factors that pay into this. And we supported G+D throughout this process of 12 months, where we said, together with Atlassian, so there's Isabel and the whole team behind her, what is the best license structure? And we came to the conclusion that the ELA actually fit the purpose the best. Now, let's look at some more points that actually paid into all of this, into the overall picture for G+D. Now, a big point is when you start negotiations with large organizations, you have tenders, you have RFPs, then you have the tenders, then you have the exploration, you have all those phases where you'd be going through those with every entity. With the help of the ELA, we have the ability to reduce that contract complexity on the basis of a single contract. We've signed one contract with G+D for its entities, and all of them are able to make use of the flexible shift from on-premise to cloud as soon as they're capable of doing it. There are certain high security crown jewels that Henrik was talking about. They may or may not move to the cloud, but a vast amount of those 6,500 licensed users have the possibility to move their instances into the cloud. And we spoke just yesterday about it, right? That whiteboard feature, Henrik liked it, right? And that'll be available on the cloud. When it's available on-premise, we don't know, but he really liked that feature, and he said there are other tools that we could replace and reduce costs, right? Once again, something really cool, because he has the flexibility to move instances, because the added value automatically increases for the group. So from the time that the contract was signed last year until today, the added value has increased without him having to change anything on the contract, right? Now, in terms of plugin negotiations, we have the ability to negotiate a framework for plugins for G+D. So the hybrid ELA doesn't include the apps, but we have the ability to negotiate non-standard discounts for the organization that will help reduce costs and also complexity, because us as the Adaptivist Group, we're one of the largest providers of apps with script runner and content formatting on the marketplace. We're actually able and possible to provide an app ELA to G+D on top of all of that, right? Now, when we think of it, another advantage is the plugin packages. When you think of the DC deployment, on DC deployment, the user tier starts at 500 users, whereas in the ELA, we can go down to up to 50 user instances, where we have the advantage to also then only license 50 user chunks of the apps for those instances. So, us as a reliable partner means we're also there for questions, because in the framework of the ELA, there's also the ability to expand into the scope of agile at scale with Jira Align, where we already had workshops together with G+D discussing what are the possibilities to grow the Atlassian tooling platform within the organization. And I mean, the last but not least, a very important aspect and point is a price guarantee, right? For 3 years. We know that it is very important for organizations to be able to plan their costs for their platforms, tooling platforms that they have across the next 3 years. And this possibility is given within the ELA with an option of yearly payments, which is unheard of within the Atlassian license framework as such, except for in the ELA. Now, in addition to that, when you think of it, the conditions and the terms that were negotiated for G+D in this ELA apply to any upgrade or expansions across the next 3 years. That means the amount of negotiation and contractual documents that we've reduced with this ELA is incredible. It's unlimited, because we can upgrade to any user tier and put in the procurement can put in a request for an upgrade, and done, because they know exactly what it costs, because that had been negotiated initially. So when we just very recently this week got the new request for an expansion of JSM, we knew, okay, this is a very easy process. G+D has saved time and money in the process of procurement, and so did we. So in the long run, it's an investment into the license structure and an investment into the tooling platform of Atlassian. Now we would move on to the Q&A session, which will be led by Isabel before we close off this session. Thank you very much.
Before we go to the Q&A session, we had thought, like at the beginning, what if not everyone will be sitting down when we, ask you the questions? So we thought of one more question, and no need to get up this time, don't worry. But can you please raise your hand if you ever carried a US dollar note with you? Okay. I have no doubt that that there was no one not raising their hand. So, well, excited to let you know that you're all customers of G+D. And honestly, for me personally, working at Atlassian, it is so amazing to see how our products help not only our customers thrive and be successful, but our customers' customers. And with that, we want to say thank you for your time today. And yeah, we hope you got some inspiration for your company, your projects, whatever you're working on, and we're happy to take your questions. Thank you.
Any questions? Please. Yeah, that's pretty good.
No, currently we cannot think about this because currently with the restrictions that we have in the high security area and the ability or the wish to go to the cloud on the other side, this is something that we can not combine at the moment. We would like to drive down the instances because obviously the more instances we have, the more cumbersome it is to maintain this. But currently we just cannot get there. But thanks for the question.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Yes. Yes. So it's a hybrid ELA. So the licenses that were purchased in this particular example, we licensed 7,000 users, and you have cloud enterprise and data center deployments under one roof. And that enables us to make that flexible shift across the next 3 years from data center to cloud. Which is yeah, and you can feel free to reach out to us and we'll assist you in that. You're already on it. Perfect, excellent. Greg loves hearing that. Yes, please.
How common are the ELAs, like Atlassian and other companies?
So the ELAs, especially the hybrid ELA, it's bespoke. It's a bespoke license agreement. So one needs to really understand, okay, which customer fits into it. Generally, we look at user tiers starting from 5,000 users. And there are certain criteria where it's feasible, where you need multiple instances, deployments, and actually a strategy. Okay, what's the strategy? With this hybrid ELA, the idea behind the hybrid ELA is also to give a flexible way of the strategy to move from on-premise to cloud. So people shouldn't think that the hybrid ELA is a way to save money and stay on data center, but it's actually a tool to help accelerate the shift strategically for strategic customers of a certain size. So, I mean, Atlassian has a lot of large enterprise customers. So the question is, how do you find how common it is? I mean, it is bespoke. We do have some customers that we do it with, but it's not an everyday tooling. No, it's not publicly available. As I said, since it's bespoke, it's something that we provide, but we as a partner together with the EA team behind it are able to provide all of that information and send you a booklet that gives you a sophisticated overview on it. Because everybody's instance is different, like G+D has organizations in Asia, Australia, North America, and that all needs to be accommodated accordingly, which is why you can't have a standard set of information around the ELA on any public website. It exists, so that's why we're in conversation with you, I know, and we're very happy to support that process. And also, like I said, the option that we also provide as a solution partner around it is hybrid ELAs, hybrid app ELAs, which also pay into that overall picture, right?